When the messages from her ex-boyfriend started, she thought they'd just go away if she ignored them. He'd done this before. But then they became threatening, and then she turned up dead. But it turns out that the call was, as they say, coming from inside the house. This is a story of Kristil Krug, the Colorado mom who was stalked by her own husband. Hi friends, I'm Katie, and this is Katie Does Crime. Thank you for joining me for the first time if you're new here. I'm a Midwesterner who now lives in New York City, putting my writing degree to use by researching true crime cases that interest me, and hopefully you. And hello to the usual rapscallions and reprobates. Please consider subscribing or joining me on Patreon if you'd like to hear more true crime stories. On December 14th, 2023, police in Colorado were asked to perform a welfare check at a home in a beautiful subdivision in Broomfield around 1 p.m. A man said he hadn't been able to reach his wife for 3 hours and he was concerned. An officer went to the door, but no one answered. So he peeked into a garage window, and there he saw her, not moving. When the officer forced his way inside, he found that she had blunt force wounds to her head and had been stabbed in the heart. 43-year-old Kristil Krug was pronounced dead at the hospital. And before you ask, I'm definitely questioning if this is how you would pronounce a name that's spelled Kristil, but that's how the DA's office said it at trial. Kristil was born in Boulder in November 1980 and was one of those people who had a brilliant mind for science, but loved to express herself through modern dance. She got her degree in biochemical engineering and worked as a project manager at a life sciences company where she specialized in laboratory equipment. Her family said she was kind and generous and that she had a warm spirit that inspired camaraderie. She and her husband, 43-year-old Daniel Bartholomew Krug, had been married since 2007. They had 2 daughters and a son who shared her passion for the arts and sciences. Her obituary said she accomplished so much in her short life and had so much left to contribute before being so savagely removed. Now, every murder is shocking, but the police already knew that Kristil was in some trouble. She made a police report on October 31st, a month and a half before her death, saying that an ex-boyfriend was bothering her. The pair dated for a little over a year after meeting at work at JCPenney, but broke up in 2000. And then they hadn't seen each other for 20 years, although he contacted her from time to time, every 5 years or so. She just ignored him. When he contacted her at the beginning of October 2023, saying, "I go to Boulder every few weeks and thought we could hook up, you game?" she ignored him again. But the messages continued, and then they got scary, and then they escalated. They insulted her and told her she should end her own life. They referred to her loser husband, Daniel, and said he couldn't satisfy her. They included a photo of Daniel at work at the state health department. They warned Kristil that her license plates were expired, implying that he was following her too. And then a text outright said he spotted her at the dentist that day. One message in November was so threatening that when Kristil reported it to the police, they went to check on Daniel at work to make sure he was okay. The message said, "I'll get rid of him and then we can be together. Give me the signal and he won't come home." The intimidation continued into the beginning of December, and then Kristil was found dead. What was suspicious was that the doorbell camera at the house had painter's tape over it, and 3 of the house's other security cameras, installed when the creepy messages started, had been turned off before Kristil died. Her husband wasn't sure why, but all signs pointed to the stalker ex-boyfriend. The thing is, Kristil's ex lived 8 hours away in Utah and was still there when her body was found. He was also there the day he supposedly spotted her at the dentist's office. Neighbors' security cameras didn't show anyone coming or going before Kristil died. She and her husband would have been the only people with the access code to take the cameras offline. She still had her new concealed carry weapon, bought recently for protection, tucked away in her purse nearby, so she must not have been scared of the person who attacked her. And oh yeah, the threatening emails sent to her, the IP address showed they came from her husband's office. Kristil's family said her relationship with Daniel was not good and that he was sometimes rough with the kids. Kristil was going to leave him, and she was going to use a picture of injuries to one of the children to make sure she got custody. I don't know any details about this picture, but I don't really doubt that it was real. So 2 days after Kristil lost her life, her husband was arrested. He was charged with 1 count of first-degree murder after deliberation, 2 counts of stalking, and 1 count of criminal impersonation. He said he just left late for work that morning because his tummy was troubling him, that they didn't argue, and that he didn't kill her. But when Krug went to trial in April 2025, the prosecution said Kristil had been suspicious that her husband might actually be posing as her ex. She had told a family member, "The sad thing is, I cannot even rule out my husband as the stalker." The DA said she was putting the pieces together and he was running out of time. Kristil had been sleeping in her son's room after moving her things out of the primary bedroom, and she told her family that although she had intended to stay with Daniel until their youngest turned 18, she couldn't wait any longer. That's when the messages from quote-unquote Kristil's ex started. Prosecutors said that when Kristil came home from dropping off the kids at school on the day she was killed, Daniel was waiting in the garage to attack her. And then he scheduled a message to himself from her phone to make it seem like she was still alive. He turned off the dash cam of his car so it wouldn't record anything at home and only turned it back on when he stopped for coffee on his way to work. The email address used to send the threatening messages to Kristil was created on Daniel's office network. He used a gift card registered in his name to buy a burner phone used to send some of the texts, and the location of the burner was often the same as his real phone. Kristil had started receiving a bunch of unsolicited dick pics right after the frightening texts and emails started, and investigators figured out that someone had placed an ad under her name and number on a hookup website. That listing, of course, came from the Wi-Fi at Daniel's work, too. When Krug was interviewed by the police, he rolled his eyes and said, "It's always the husband." He told the authorities that Kristil had been disappearing for hours at a time lately and keeping secrets, like she was having an affair. In this interview, he was supposedly so choked up that he could barely talk as he lamented how his children should have had their mother for decades. But the authorities noted that he cried no actual tears. It also seemed weird that Krug would have called for a wellness check after his wife didn't answer for 3 measly hours. Kristil's ex, the supposed stalker, took the stand to testify about how it felt to be questioned about the death of the girlfriend from his teenage years whom he hadn't seen in 2 decades. Anthony Holland was now a Texas Roadhouse server in Utah and had just come home from a shopping trip to Kohl's when the police came knocking. As a side note, don't you just love how American this guy is? Texas Roadhouse and a new sweatshirt from Kohl's in Eagle Mountain, Utah. He said he had no idea what was going on and had only briefly dated Kristil when he was 17. He tried messaging her a few times over the years, but she said she wasn't allowed to talk to him. And he admitted that when she blocked him on Facebook, it's probably because he told her he was still in love with her. But his sister had photos that proved he was in Utah with his family when Kristil's alleged stalker was in Colorado taking creepy pictures of her and her husband. Krug's defense said that even though his daughter confirmed that he was wearing the same clothes before and after the murder, there was no blood found on them. They said Kristil's body had been flipped over, and there's no way Daniel could have avoided getting blood on himself if he was the killer. Partial DNA from another unknown person was also found on her neck, and her phone was never tested for someone else's fingerprints. Krug's lawyers said the police couldn't keep Kristil safe to begin with, and then their sloppy, incompetent investigative work led to the wrong suspect. Krug said they'd been drilling the kids about how to handle their mom's stalker if they encountered him, and he would never do that to his children if he didn't have to. But guys, come on. Krug searched a bunch of things about head trauma the day before the murder, such as how hard for head trauma to go unconscious. And after he bought that burner phone with his gift card, he sent a text to Kristil from the new phone. She didn't respond fast enough, so he sent a text to his real phone as a test. And then he responded to that test text. The prosecution said Daniel Krug operated like a puppet master over his wife and kids, and was growing resentful and angry that his control might be taken away with the divorce. He had tried to get Kristil to run back to him by scaring her, but when that didn't work, he had to punish her. The DA said he didn't love her, he hated her. Think about what he did to her. You don't do that to somebody you love. Think about the absolute nightmare and hell that he made the last few months of her life. His resentment for her, the fact that she wouldn't be with him, This was about Dan losing control. Daniel Krug was convicted of first-degree murder, stalking, and criminal impersonation. He was sentenced to life in prison and won't be eligible for parole. In her victim impact statement, Kristil's daughter said she has a motto: don't run from your problems, skip from them. But she's not sure she can skip away from this one. The kids, ages 16, 12, and 10, now live with their aunt and uncle, and Daniel has been barred from contacting them forever. One question that I first had when I started researching this case was, okay, if Daniel was the one sending the messages to Kristil, who took that photo of him at work that was supposed to be so threatening? And then I learned that it was a selfie. Apparently, forensics experts could tell that the photo was taken on selfie mode. The prosecutor said Daniel propped up his phone on a nearby car and turned it toward himself. The other thing that interested me is that detectives apparently told a family member of Kristil's that they had suspected Daniel of being the stalker since November, the month before she was killed. But it sounds to me like authorities didn't warn her, which, does make sense in a way. The police can't be out there telling people to side-eye their husbands without any evidence. But it's obviously also a real shame that something more couldn't be done. Kristil's dad said she had this infectious laughter and a warm spirit that everybody could sense who was around her. She was beautiful in every way. As always, please let me know what you think about this case in the comments. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm just a true crime fan like you are, and I really appreciate you taking a chance on me. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you like spending this time together. I would be so appreciative. Until next time, I'm Katie, and this has been Katie Does Crime.